Thank you so much, Naomi, and thank you to everyone just for attending this Silent Partner webinar. I would just like to say as we start off that some of what we're going to do today might not be applicable to everyone as we are all at different chapters, or you might have an older version of Silent Partner, or your permissions might be a little bit different from what we're showing you on the screen. So if this is the case, please talk to your administrator just if they need to change permissions for you. We actually also have Joe from Silent Partner on the call with us as well. So he is watching along and he will know what we're talking about today, so that if you have any specific questions related to this, feel free to contact me, or you can contact Joe as well just about this. So just to go over what we have today, a little introduction. We'll be viewing reports in Silent Partner, how to update your partner information, adding notes to a donor profile, mailing history, adding a calendar reminder, exporting a donor list to Excel, and creating mailing labels and doing mail merge documents. So we do have a lot to cover today, but again, as Naomi said, there will be a recording of this, so feel free to reference that at the end, and we are always available if you have any questions. So we're just going to go to the cloud. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, but just to log in, put in your email address and your password and log in. If you have any problems or have forgotten your password, please just contact your administrator to reset that. So when we log into the cloud, we view the dashboard. I'm just going to point out a couple of items for you on the dashboard that I think are really helpful tools. There's a brand new feature. It's called Set Annual Goals. And this is really helpful if you have either a special project and you want to figure out a goal amount for that and track how you're doing, or even just your own account, just to see how well you're doing and if you're on track for the year. So to do that, click on Set Annual Goal and click on the plus sign. And here you'll have a list of all the accounts you have access to. They are in alphabetical order. So if you can just start typing in the little box here, and we'll come up, I want to look at general donations. So I'm going to click on that. I'll click an amount and then click Save. And it's really easy to go back and edit or delete it if you need to do that at a future date. So here you can see I'm now 14.5% towards my annual goal of $1,000. Another feature we have is My Accounts by Month, and this just shows your donations for the past 13 months. There's actually also an option that you can go back to the past 24 months. In my test account, there isn't that much information in it, so it just shows us the past 13 months. And if you go to the bar graph, you can just hover over each month and it will tell you the amount that is in there. Please note the monthly average does exclude this month's donations. If you have access to more than one account and you only want to view one account, you can just click here where it says click here to select which accounts to include in your chart. And right here in the drop-down menu, again, this is in alphabetical order, so you'll just need to scroll through until you find the account that you want to view. I'd like to view general donations, so I click on that, and then I hit Save Selection. And then when I go back to my dashboard, I'm only viewing my general fund accounts. If we scroll down a little bit further, we can see the recent donations to my accounts, and this just gives you a list of the 10 most recent donations. It's a quick at-a-glance view so that you can see what has come in recently. So now we're going to view our reports, which is a really helpful tool, and I'm sure that most of you are already viewing your reports, but just in case, we will go over this again. So on the toolbar on the left-hand side, we want to click Reports, and the first report we're going to look at today is the Account Activity Report. So when we click on this, we'll see here that we have the donations from and to. The default is a 3-month window from today's date, but if you would like to select a date that's farther back, you just click on the calendar. And we'll go from October 1st to today's date. If you have access to more than one account, you can click on the drop-down menu and select which accounts you would like to view. If you only have access to one account, that will just be the default account that you see, and you shouldn't need to change your selections. Now we just want to get the information up, so we click on All Screen. So right here we have the total donations for the amount of time that we've chosen. If we have selected more than one account, we will see the subtotals by account right here. And as we scroll down further, we'll see the subtotals by donor. And this is just the summary of what each donor has given over the time period that you have selected. As we scroll down a little bit further to our details section, we're just able to see all the donations that have come in recently. Right here in the header, if you click on any of the headers, you will be able to select and filter the information that way. So right now we have the date with the most recent donation on top and then working backwards. Over here, I'll just point out the motivation. So here would be the motivation. So if they gave as a result of a specific appeal that was sent out, or if it was a one-time donation or a pre-authorized donation, that is all recorded under the motivation. As well, you can see there's a little note here that says for declined payment. So if you're wondering why Virgil Levy has two donations for $20, one is a positive and one is a negative, and it was a pre-authorized donation that was declined, and there is just a little note here so that it says for declined payment. And there's another section, if people have a little note that they want to put in, that can be included in the note section as well. So if we go back to our reports, we're just going to look at the monthly contribution totals. This report is great for an overview. If you want to see the trends, how well you're doing over a certain time, what's happening, you can view that here as well. We're just going to go back again to October. Like the previous report, it does pick a 3-month window. So here, if you want to go back over a year or just the 3 months, whichever you prefer, you can do that in the donations from and to section. Again, if you have access to more than one account, you can select which account you want to view. We would just like to view the general account, so everything is fine. So we will select Run. And here you can see this is what's happened over the past few months. It's just a nice overview. Here you'll notice there's a 0, and that is, again, that's because Virgil Levy had a donation that went through and then was declined, so it shows up as a 0. But it's great just to see the trends. You can see if there's a certain time of year where donations come in a little bit more compared to another time of year, or if you have a regular partner that has been giving and then you notice that they're not giving anymore, you're just able to follow up and track that. So we're just going to go back to our dashboard for the moment, and we're going to look at how to update your partner information in Silent Partner. So if we want to look for a specific partner because we know that their address needs to be updated, there are a couple ways that we can do it. So at the top of the screen here, we'll notice that there's a Find a Donor search bar. So if you know the name of your donor, you can just start typing it in and click on the magnifying glass. So we need to change Carlos Albano's address because I've realized that it's wrong. So we can click on his name and it brings us to the donor profile. Another way to do that is if we're back at the dashboard, and you don't have to be at the dashboard to do it, you can just do it at any point. You can click on this CRM, and this brings us to a list of all of your donors. And here we have Carlos, so we'll just click on his name, and it brings us to our donor profile where we can make edits. So as you can see, he doesn't have a city or a province or the country in the mailing address. So in order to change that, we can just go to the Edit Donor icon right here and click on that. And we'll just scroll down to Country, select Canada, go to the province, and then in the drop-down menu, we can select the city. Once we've made the changes and we're happy with it, we can just select Update Donor. There are some additional donor information here. So for example, if you've noticed that there's a typo in Carlos's last name, you can just click on Additional Donor Information and change the typo and correct it in here. Please just speak with your administrator just regarding any other changes, just to make sure that they are okay with you making the changes yourself. And then once that's been done, you just select Update Donor. So you'll notice that you'll get a pop-up box that comes up that says, you have updated this donor's name. Would you like the system to automatically apply these changes to the label fields? Please check no. And so the yellow just shows that you've made the change, your corrections are made above, and you'll get this little thumbs up icon. What this means is that it's going to your administrator for approval, and once it's been approved, it will be synced on the next sync to the Silent Partner desktop. And then you can carry on and the changes will have been made to the desktop as well. So if we want to go back to our list, if we want to go to the next person and see if there are changes that we need to make to the next individual in our donor profile list, you can use your back button on your browser, but a better way to do it is just to scroll down and select back to search. The reason that this is important is if you happen to have, in my example here, we only have 11 matches, but I'm sure most of you have more than just 11 partners. So you'll have a couple of pages of partners. So if you are on the third page, for example, of your partners, if you just use your browser back button, you would go all the way back to the top of your list. But this way it just shows us it's highlighted. We were just on Carlos's list, and now we can go to the next one. We can check out Lillian Ashman's if we want. You'll also notice here on the side, we have a couple of icons. If you're wondering what they mean, there is a, it just says it at the bottom what the icons mean. So as we discussed, to be approved for sync, and then there's ready to be synced with Silent Partner desktop. Donor is anonymous. Donor has a mail code A, which is no mail. So it will be a little bit different depending on the individual. It could mean that their mail was returned, so it's a bad address, so we don't want to send out the mail and then have the mail returned because the address is no longer correct. Or it could mean that they have been requested to be removed from our mailing list, so we don't want to send them something if they don't want to receive it. And then this icon here with the check mark is a new donor. So what that means is that within the past 30 days, you've had a new financial partner, or it could also be somebody that had been in the system in the past, but they've not given in the past 2 years, but have recently given a gift. So you will be able to see this icon. So it's a really great way to just keep track of your partners and notice if there's a new partner that you've given, just so then you can thank them for their gift. So we're just going to go back and look at Carlos's profile right now and go to the note section, just so that we can enter a note. So if we have talked to Carlos and we just want to record it and keep a record of it, this is where we would do it in Silent Partner. There are two sections here. One is console and cloud contact history. And what that means is if you want the record to be saved to Silent Partner desktop, you would add that in here. If you only want the record to be saved in the cloud, you can just add this note here. And it's really your preference where you would like to put it. If you would like to put it in the console and cloud contact history, or just in the cloud notes. So to do that, you click on Add a Contact Record, and it will automatically come up with today's date. If it was a meeting that you had yesterday, feel free to change that. Under Visit Code, you can select one of these. So perhaps we sent Carlos a handwritten note. So if there's a specific owner, you can add the owner, or you can just leave it blank and it will have your name that it was entered by you in this section. And so then the comment, we can just say, thank you for your gift. And then in the notes, if we want to expand a little bit further, we can say what that's for. If he gave to a special project, that can be included here. Just one thing I'd like to point out, there is a little section where you can have a checkbox that says private. These notes, unless you check private, are not private. So if you share a partner with another staff member, they will be able to see your notes. So that is just something to keep in mind. You can make it private if you would like, but we just ask that you not put anything private, like very private or confidential about your partners in Silent Partner. Once we've made our notes, we can click on Save. And here you can see, thank you for your gift. It was written today. If we want to just take a look at the mailing history of what we've sent out to the partner, we can do that by going to the Communications tab immediately to the right of the notes. When we select on the Communications tab, as we scroll down, you'll notice there's a couple different history sections. The top one is the cloud mailing history. So this is something that has gone out through the cloud that you have recorded. So if you want to record a newsletter that you have sent to your partners through the cloud, that would show up here. Just in a moment, I will show you how to record that. If we scroll down a little bit further, it's console mailing history. So this is something that has been sent out through the desktop. So in the case of the national office, this would be something that we would send out here in Langley. So for example, it might be a thank you card, a fall newsletter, or a Christmas appeal that was sent out. But you're just able to see all of that information just right here in this section. So that way you know how many times you're touching base with your partners and just keeping them up to date on what's happening. So in order to record a mailing history in the cloud, so this section right here, we need to go to the Communications on the left toolbar. So we click that, and we want to do a new print campaign. So starting our new print campaign, we're going to want to give it a name. So for today, we can just call it March 28th, 2018. If you have a motivation code that you'd like to connect with this campaign, feel free to enter it here. And you can set it up with your administrator if that's something that you would like to do. And then when we need to select a template, we hit select. If you have a template that you have used previously, feel free to use that. If you have not done this before, you will see blank template, and then you can just enter that in. You do need to enter in some information in your WYSIWYG editor. This is what you see is what you get. And we can just put test in. It doesn't have to be very much information. You just do need to have some text there. And then we'll name it and give it a description. And we can save it as a new template. So it's been saved. So we can scroll up and select done. When we click on recipients, one of the great parts about doing it this way, sending out your mailing through the Communications tab in Silent Partner, is that it will automatically filter out your partners that have a mail code A, which means that they should not be receiving mail. So under Select Recipients, choose Donors From. We want to select Donors I Can View. And then you can just see here that 3 of your donors have a no mail code. And here is your list. If you click on the checkbox, it says select all donors, but what it does is it automatically filters out the donor with the A. So this one is a bad address, so it's automatically filtered them out, so we don't need to worry about sending out mail and wasting postage on a marketing piece or a newsletter that won't get to them. So then we scroll back up and select Add to List. And here is a list of the people that we will be sending our newsletter to. If we've decided that, you know what, I actually don't want to send it to this person, it's really easy. You can just hit remove and they are removed from the list. And once you have everybody that you would like to have on your list, you just click done. And here it says donors on the list 7. So if you would like to have a copy of the, for example, your newsletter that you're sending out and have a record of that in the mailing history, you can just click on attachments and select. And we'll just put this file in, so whatever your file is, and add this in, and then we'll add it to the campaign. So as you can see, it's been added here. If you realize that you've added the wrong one, you can just exit and then select the correct file. So as we scroll down again, we need to hit Save Configuration and include a merge files for labels too. This is really important because, and Naomi will get to it a little bit later in the webinar, but you will be able to create your mailing labels from this, and it just will help you save a step so you don't have to do it later and type it out by for each one. And then we click on Prepare the Mail file, and make sure that you click to download your print job. And again, we will come to this later. And then click Done. So if we're finished sending the mail, we can click to close the campaign. And if we go back to our CRM and look at one of our partners, under the communications, we will be able to see that we did a bulk mail campaign on March 28. And if we'd like to look at the attachment, it's just right here. So we can see what has been sent out. Again, I would just like to say that if you share a partner with someone, they will be able to see your notes. So that's just something to keep in mind. The next feature that we're just going to review is the calendar feature. And this is a really useful tool. I'm sure most of you have used a calendar perhaps in your Outlook, and this is just another option to do it. It's really handy because you can set a reminder and it will email you. So sometimes it's easy to miss your Outlook notes, but it's not as easy to miss an email from someone. So as you can see, we have a 3 in the circle, a red, and then a green 1. So what this is this just refers to your task list. There's just actually right now, I was deleting an item and I deleted it, so it didn't remove it from this. It's just a bug in Silent Partner, and they are aware of it and they will update it shortly, but normally it would just say 2 here instead of 3. And these are just my past due tasks. And my upcoming tasks in the next 2 weeks show up as green. If I want to add a task, I click on Add a Task, and I write in the subject, and perhaps it's Carlos's birthday, so I just want to send him a birthday card. So in the description, I can write a note to say send card.
Sorry, I'm mad at this, but it's really overwhelming.
So I can say the date would be March 30th. One thing I would like to point out, the time, it's actually in Greenwich Mean Time. So that is the time that is in London. It does say right here, if you forget, your time zone UTC. So that is 4 hours ahead of Eastern time and 7 hours ahead of Pacific time. So it is something to keep in mind if you want to set the exact time, or you can just do a general time. And when you set a reminder, it will email you that reminder. If I want to associate it with the donor, I start typing in Carlos's name and it comes up. And now this task is related to Carlos. If it's a one-time task, I can just hit save and that's fine. But if it's a recurring task, I can click the button here and make it a yearly task to recur every March 30th, that it is his birthday. And I can say I want it to end after 10 occurrences, or I can say no, end date, and then I hit save. And just when I refresh, it is right here, Carlos's birthday. So the little bell icon, it just means that I have requested a reminder, and this arrow icon is just that it's a recurring event. So another useful tool is if you have a communications calendar and you just want to record it in Silent Partner, you can send yourself a reminder, so it will email you in advance that you have a new newsletter that should go out or something like that. So the last thing that we're going to look at before we go to Naomi is how to export your partner list to Excel. In order to do that, we're going to go back to our CRM and click on it. And as you can see, there are some icons up here. If you notice, the information that's currently here is quite simple. It doesn't have the full address. It just has their first name, last name, phone number, and so on. This has been set up for the national team. So for those of you that are interested in having it for the administrators, please feel free to either contact myself or contact Joe with Silent Partner, and we can just help you set this up. But under this, my company shared searches, you can click on email partner list. And as you can see the information, there's a little bit more. We have an address, we have an email address. So it's just a little bit more information, and this is what we will want when we export it. So when we scroll down to the bottom of our list here, there's a little circle with an XLS in it, which is export to formatted Excel. So that's what we'd like to click on. So as we click on that, we can open it, and you will often get an error message. It's fine, the file is not corrupt or unsafe, so feel free to just click yes and open it. And here we have our information that we can filter and change as needed. If we want to do labels or an email, we can just pull this information from here. One thing I would like to point out with this are the mail codes. So under column N, you will see the mail codes. Of course, it will be different for different chapters, but just take note of the ones that have an A in it, because they have requested no mail or it's a bad address. And one other thing, just in the very last column, column S, donor is new, you can see that this donor is new. So if you are doing a mail out or just want to touch base with your partners, you can just make sure that you thank them for their recent gifts. So now I will be turning it over to Naomi, and she's just going to talk about mail merge.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. I am taking note of all the questions that are coming through. And Elizabeth, you can take a quick look at the chat screen so that you have a chance to take a look at the questions, and we will come back to them at the end. So my purpose right now is to just let you know how to create a mail labels file. So I'm using sort of a newer version of Word. Not all versions are the same, but if you have questions about different versions that you're using, feel free to give me a call. At the top of a new document, you will see these tabs at the top. Click on Mailings, and you will see something that says Start a Mail Merge. And today we want to create labels with the file that Elizabeth had downloaded from Silent Partner earlier. So we go to Labels. When you buy a package of labels at your office supply place, Staples or other, it will have a number associated with the file, with the labels. And the numbers that I tend to use are either 5160 or 5161. So I'm going to select that. Just make sure you know whether it's an Avery product, and scroll down to the one that's appropriate, 5160, and go OK. Now you're going to see all these funny looking codes, and that is exactly what you want to see. The next step, nice thing about Word is it actually tells you right here, select recipients, choose a new existing recipient list for your mail merge. So you go up to select recipient, use an existing list because you do already have that list. And I'm going to go to my desktop where I've saved that and grab that list. You will see this field, and you will want to insert your files or your labels one at a time. So in between each one, you will want to either put a space or press enter to go to the next line. So we have first name, last name, address 1. And in case that you have something in the address field 2, you might want to throw that in as well. If it is blank, the fields will just move up. It will not leave a blank space on your label. The suggested way to do addresses by Canada Post is to do city, space, province, 2 spaces, and postal code all on the same line. So under here it says zip. So we're going to click OK. And suddenly your sheet is filled with a lot of code. Did it work? We will check by going up to preview results. And look, we can see that our files are showing up. In order to finish the merge, you will want to either go to edit individual documents or print documents. I always like to take the time to look through each individual file because you will likely have 3, 4, 5 pages of labels that you will want to look at. And I would go edit individual documents so that you can look at each one. As you can see here, somehow the code is wrong. So we're going to just make sure that we spell the name right. I'm sure that's not how to spell it. But, you know, you just want to go in there and make sure that you have everything correct. Once you've done that, I do like to save my files so that I know where to find them again later. And as this is not January anymore, we're going to call this March 2018 mail labels. And they are ready to print. So I would love to sort of take a look at our chat box. And Elizabeth, I started typing out some questions here that we had in that chat box. Maybe you can take yourself off mute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and help answer some of the questions that came up earlier. So the first one has to do with the notes in the individual files. You were talking about writing a note either in the console or both the cloud and console. So why should I choose console or both cloud and console for notes was the first question.
So I think it's really your preference. If you want to have the note in just the cloud, or if you want to have it in the console, which is another word for the desktop, which would be where the donations processor or your administrator would be processing the donations. And the cloud is synced approximately every week. So then that's when, or pardon me, it's backed up every week. So then that is when, just to make sure if you want to keep the history of it. And the desktop, that would be backed up. It's really whenever your administrator does it. So that could be daily, it could be weekly, and it really is your preference. If you want to just keep it in the cloud, or if you want to have a copy saved back to the desktop, and then that way the administrator is able to view that note as well.
And the next question has to do with the same topic. What if a donor gives to many people? How does the system handle that? When they talk about notes or, you know, is it personal? How does it handle that? And I'm not sure if you're able to share your screen again and take a look at that page or not, but that's more about the privacy settings.
So I'm not sure. Are you able to see the screen?
Let me see if I have to share it with you. Change presenter, this would be my job, hey?
Okay, well, Silent Partner, what it does is, so this information here in the donor profile, so it just has like the details, like the name, the mailing address, so on and so forth, the codes, it will just say, for example, like what their mail codes are. It would say here under connectors, it could say the different people if they were connected with it. So for example, this would be my partner, but if it was also Naomi's partner, Naomi's name would be here as well. And the note. So this is things that people, if they have access to the information, they would be able to see. However, when it comes to financials, I will only be able to see the gifts that Carlos has given to me. So if Carlos has given to somebody else, I will not be able to see that information. So that is part of the privacy and permissions that has been set out, and I will not be able to see that information.
Great.
So this, yeah, okay.
I think we are seeing your screen. So if you need to look back at that test screen again, you can. So how long does a new donor icon remain attached to the donor file?
30 days.
30 days.
Yeah, so it's okay if you're not checking every day, as long as you check within 30 days. Hopefully you'll check a little bit sooner than that, but you will see the icon for 30 days.
Awesome. We can't see your screen, your Silent Partner screen. Elizabeth was from Ivy.
Oh, you can't? Okay.
No, not yet.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, we're at. So the next question was, for your calendar, is there any integration with other calendars?
This I'm actually not sure. Perhaps Joe can answer this question.
At the moment, there is not.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
The donor tags, you didn't comment on donor tags. Can you elaborate on how they can be used, and are they unique to a user or are they system-wide?
Okay, so donor tags really is something that you can set up and you can tag them. It says my tags here. So for example, if you want to tag somebody as a family member, or if you want to tag them for a specific mail out, you can just do that in the tags. I don't have any in this. And as for, I believe that everyone is able to see them, but Joe will just be able to confirm that for me.
Sorry, yes.
Everyone can see them?
Everyone can see them.
Okay.
So the question from Sylvie, as we saw in, this might be another question for Joe, as we saw as I tried to translate the label or the addresses into labels, we had some problem with the icons. Sylvie said, it means that in Quebec, we have to correct all names and addresses that have accents. This has been a recurrent issue. Does Silent Partner foresee being able to make our life easier with accents?
Yes, we do foresee that. That has been talked about, and I know it's in the planning stages. At what point it's going to come out, I can't really tell you because I'm not with the development team. But yeah,
Okay.
we have spoken about that little problem.
Okay. Contact info updates. If selecting sync to desktop, does that finalize and sync the info across the system, or only send it to the desktop for my administrator to then sync manually?
So right here with this icon, so this means the administrator will have to approve it. So just as you see on the dashboard, it says donor changes. So the administrator is then able to go in and just make sure the change looks fine and approve it. And then at that time, it will go to ready to sync, and it will be synced to the desktop the next time. I did notice that Tony had a comment just about as the ED, if he could just click on select directly. So the other option is you can do that and approval for sync to SP desktop. So if you are the administrator and you know that the change is correct, you can select this. And it just means the next time you do a sync, it will sync between the desktop and the cloud. So the information will be updated immediately without having to wait for approval.
Okay, great. One last question on the tags. What are your recommended best practices for using tags to avoid tag chaos?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know what, I'm not sure about that. Maybe Joe, you have a suggestion for this?
Unfortunately, no, I don't have a suggestion. It's probably going to be more like an individual chapter thing. You guys have to decide how best to handle them.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, it's Maureen speaking. I just saying, I would recommend as a chapter with many staff members that just your administrator handle that and choose your tags in terms of things like board member. Like I would tag all of our current board members or staff members or things that make logical sense, but I would not recommend that all our staff be using the tags.
Okay. That's great. This might be a silly question, but is there a way for me to see the list of my staff? In Stratford, we have 4 lists, mine, general, and 1 for each of the other 2 staff. As their supervisor and overseer of the general list, is there a way for me to see and update these lists?
Yes, there is under admin settings and permissions, but that is something that is probably best if you just contact Joe directly after this webinar, and he can help set that up for you.
Yep,
Awesome.
will do.
And we have another question. Is there a way we can mark that a donor has received a general mailing so that the donor doesn't receive multiple copies of the same mailing from different people? Do you want to take a look at the communications tab quickly?
Right here.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on your chapter. Sorry, I'm not sure where you're from and how exactly it's done, but probably it would be under the console mailing history. And so I would think that probably, so for example, if you had an annual report, that might be something that was sent out just from the office rather than to everyone sending their own, but I'm not sure how that's done. So it really does depend on that. But it would be under the console mailing history. You should be able to see that in here. So sorry, it kind of depends on your office.
Well, and if an individual staff member goes through the communications tab on on Silent Partner to do their mailing, for example, if they mail out the newsletter to their partners instead of from the office, but they actually record it through here, it would be recorded in the top section. And they can put it under their subject or make sure that that's clear. Next question. We'd like to know how Silent Partner transfers donor amounts to our accounting software, Simply Accounting. So, Joe, do you have a comment on that?
I wasn't part of the team that did it. I believe they send it out as a CSV file in a specific format that the accounting package is looking for. There's one for each package, so like Sage and so on, and each one has its own setup, and it's set up beforehand with us.
Okay. Are there any further questions? If you want to just unmute yourself quickly to make clarifying comments on some of the questions you may have asked, feel free.
Hi, Colin Lever here from Quincy.
Hi, Colin.
I had a question I had to the chat there, not sure it showed up. How a silent partner transfers donor amounts to the accounting software? We use Simply Accounting here. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so Joe is just saying that it's probably different for each one. And you'll see his email address has just been stuck into the chat.
Yeah.
Often it would be downloaded as a CSV file and transferred that way. So.
But I will make sure for everybody, if you guys want to know specifics, just email me and then I'll be able to respond to you.
Perfect.
But where do I do it?
I'll just put Joe's.
Yes, so as you can see there, you can see all the contact information for Elizabeth and me and Joe. If you have any questions about any of the content today, we are here to help. And if we don't know the answers, we will try to help find them for you. Brenda has a question. When can I expect to receive a copy of today's session? So that would be, Daryl would have to answer that one for us. He's just going to pull the recording together and hopefully be able to sync it with the presentation so that it's a video format. So that will take a little while, but we will be able to get that out to you hopefully very soon. Daryl, feel free to chime in if you unmute yourself.
Is my mic on now?
Yep.
Because I for some reason my unmute doesn't like to work here. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Very, very soon, I hope. For everybody except for Brenda, I'll have it to you quickly. For Brenda, well, you'll that's just the way it is.
All right.
Daryl, I know where you live.
Yeah, I have a lot of notice if you're going to make it all the way over here.
All right. Well, do feel free to send us emails if you have any questions. We will send this out to you as soon as Daryl gets it live and ready to go. We do have some PDF notes to go along with it, so if you need a step-by-step guide. We do have another webinar coming up next month, so mark your calendars. The last Wednesday of the month, which I think is the 25th, and Andrew Chong from Vancouver will be presenting the Better Letter, so how to write an effective newsletter to your partners. I would love to see all of you on the call, and we will be sending that out, so feel free to share it with your staff members because everyone has to write newsletters. And we look forward to hearing from Andrew on that. Otherwise, I think we are going to wrap it up because you have given us 50 minutes of your time and been very attentive. Thank you so much for being so engaged and having such good questions. And we hope you have a wonderful day.